Hi, welcome to Learning Kitchen Live, Home Edition. My name is Jessica Birch. I'm one of the dietitians at Community Servings. Welcome to my kitchen. So before I get started with today's recipe, I want to take a minute to thank our sponsors at Boston Scientific, not Learning Kitchen Live, Boston Scientific for sponsoring Learning Kitchen Live, and also remind you that the recipe featured in today's session will be posted in the comments section below the video once the session is over. You'll also see a survey there that has some questions about how we've been doing so far, other topics that you may want us to cover. So if you have a chance and can fill it out, that would be great. So with that being said, let's move on to today's recipe. So today I'm going to feature an adaptation of a Yotam Ottolenghi recipe. I'm going to just call it pasta with chickpeas and za'atar. And I'll explain what all of those components are as we go along. But I just want to start by saying that this recipe utilizes tons of different ingredients to layer lots and lots of flavors and make a really rich, delicious dish without adding any salt or a very, very small amount of salt. So before I dive into all the details about that, let me show you what I've got going so far. I wanted to show you as much of the dish as I could in production, but I did a few things, ahead of time. So what I've got here in my pan is I started with 3 tablespoons, whoops, let me move the spoon. I started with 3 tablespoons of olive oil. It's just kind of a brown medley right now, but let me explain what it is. 3 tablespoons of olive oil that I put half of a chopped onion into, 2 smashed cloves of garlic, and then what I did was I took a lemon and I just peeled, using a vegetable peeler, a part of the rind off. And this, if you're going to buy a lemon, this is really something worth using. It's a wonderful way to flavor lots of different foods. It's edible raw, it's edible cooked, and if you're going to pay for the whole thing, you might as well use the whole thing, right? So added if you look at it, most of the lemon. I went around and shaved off most of it and added that into the oil with the onions and the garlic to infuse flavor into that oil. So I'm going to take one moment to pause and I'm going to add in a few more ingredients before I explain more of what's going on in this pan. Okay, so I've got this on medium, high heat. It's going to heat up pretty quick. I'm going to add in my chickpeas now so that these can start browning a little bit. And then I have 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. We'll go into all of the details of this. And so that's going to help caramelize the chickpeas a little bit. So we're just going to let them sit here in this deliciousness and start to absorb all those flavors. So I've got my onion, I've got my garlic, I've got my lemon peel. The next thing I added into my oil is anchovies. And so these can be, I know they're kind of hit and miss. Some people really love them, some people don't. I guarantee that if you eat at Italian restaurants on a regular basis, you have had anchovies, even if you don't think you like them or haven't had them. They're really in the base of a lot of sauces. And the reason is that they can add an amazing briny flavor. So when I say briny, I mean like the ocean, like that sea salty ocean scent. They add that flavor component to a sauce without adding salt. As long as you get anchovies that are packed in olive oil or canola oil instead of salt packed, you're not adding a whole lot of extra sodium, but you're getting that same flavor profile. So I put 4 of these in with the oil. And the thing about anchovies is that as they cook, they break down and basically dissolve into whatever you're cooking. So you won't even realize that they're there. It's not like you're gonna all of a sudden pull up like a big bite of anchovy. So I've got my onions, my garlic, my lemon, my anchovies, and then I added 2 teaspoons of cumin and 1 teaspoon of thyme. And let all of that cook until it turns that amazing brown color, which I know, isn't really what you think, but the onions should look like. But they're caramelizing in the oil. The cumin is helping to turn everything brown. And what's happening now is all of those flavors are cooking into the chickpeas. There's no salt in this dish as of yet, and it is going to be so flavorful because of all of those different layers. So let's take a second and really kind of change gears, talk about why I'm trying to cut back on the salt. So if you've tuned into any of my Learning Kitchen Live episodes before, I always hone in on the salt piece. In the United States, we tend to get way more salt than we actually need, and that can affect our heart health over time, can raise blood pressure. And so if you can find ways that you can incorporate dishes that have tons of flavor without adding a lot of salt, you're setting yourself up for success. The other things that are going on in this dish are things that are going to positively impact heart health as well. So we've got our plant-based protein. We talk a lot about incorporating more plant-based proteins into our diet, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But one of the main reasons is because animal-based proteins, so all of your meats, are higher in saturated fat and cholesterol, whereas plant-based proteins have no saturated fat and no cholesterol. So by choosing those more frequently, you're setting yourself up for more success, using food as medicine. The other thing is that plant-based proteins like these chickpeas that I use today are high in fiber. Fiber acts as a broom. It sweeps our system clean. It can actually pull cholesterol out of the bloodstream. So again, I know that if you've tuned into my sessions before, these are things that I always touch on, but they're really, really important to remember, because they can set you up for success by eating delicious things. All right, so this, I wish you could smell it. It smells amazing. The thyme and the cumin, the lemon, the garlic, and my chickpeas, you can see, are starting to get a little brown. And so what I'm gonna do now is I am going to add 1 3/4 cups of chicken stock. And this is gonna be really the sauciness of our sauce. And let me move these things out of my way. Next, I'm going to take that lemon that I peeled for the zest, give it a roll. That helps to break up the little pockets of juice inside the lemon so that it's easier to squeeze. This one has a lot of seeds. And I'm gonna add the juice of half the lemon. So I'm squeezing it, or this isn't actually a very big lemon, so I might do the whole thing. I'm squeezing it through my hand so that I can catch the seeds. If you have a strainer, you can do that too. But this way, I can get all that lemon flavor in and not end up biting on a seed later. All right. So, there we go. All right. It's already starting to bubble a little bit. So I'm just gonna scrape down the sides of my pan, get all of those delicious herbs and spices and that yummy infused oil down into the sauce. And I'm gonna turn my heat up so that this starts to simmer and then reduce by a little bit. All right, so the next thing that I want to talk about while this is simmering down is the Za'atar, which is a Middle Eastern spice blend. It's ubiquitous, so that means that it's in lots of different places, but it also means that everybody has their own version of Za'atar. So if you're in the Middle East and you're visiting with one group of people or some friends or family or whoever it is, they're going to have their special blend. The thing about Za'atar is that it's a mixture of a lot of really easily attained spices. You can go into the store and buy a little tiny packet of Za'atar for a lot of money, but you can make your own without spending as much. So at the base of it, it's cumin, thyme, oregano, sumac, which is optional, you can put that in or not. Sumac is a red spice. it looks a little bit like that. It has a really floral flavor, and so it adds a whole new component to a dish. And then sesame seeds. And sesame seeds add a nutty flavor to the dish. So when you can combine equal amounts of all of those different spices and make your own za'atar blend. And what you're gonna get is an earthy warmth from the cumin, the nice herbaceous notes from the thyme and the oregano, the floral component of the sumac, and then that nuttiness from the sesame seeds. Layering in all of these amazing flavors without even touching the salt yet, right? So then when it comes to actually salting the dish, I would encourage you to do it once you've served yourself some. Give it a taste and then maybe a little sprinkle instead of adding it in as you're cooking. Then you can get a sense of how all the other flavors are working together and determine how much you actually need. So this just is another reason to think about other ways that you can use spices that are on hand, herbs that are on hand, to layer different flavors. So this is just one common spice blend, but there are lots of other options out there. And you can also make your own spice blend. A lot of the times if you just go and you smell different things, so this is my cumin, give your cumin a sniff, try some thyme, figure out, oh, do those smell good together? You could add cardamom, coriander, cinnamon, nutmeg. There's a huge range of spices out there. Figure out which ones you like the best and make your own special spice blend at home to add to dishes and elevate the flavor without using as much of the salt. So I'm trying to decide if I pick up my phone to show you this right now, if I will dump it into the sauce. Instead, what I think I'll do is I'll just hold this up. So this is reduced by about half. And what I'm gonna do now is add in 2 cups of spinach. This actually might be a little bit more than 2 cups. I did 2 big handfuls. But the thing about spinach and any of our leafy greens is as soon as we start to cook them, they just wilt down and you feel like you haven't added any at all. So you could even add more to this dish and just really pump up the greens, which would be a great way to add extra flavor, a great way to add, if it's spinach, extra iron, extra folate, all of those yummy things that we need. I'm gonna give it just a stir so that all of the leaves get incorporated into the sauce. And let this just simmer for another moment so those greens get nice and wilted. Yum. I'm excited to have this for lunch today. And while that's going, I'm gonna make my za'atar blend to sprinkle on top. So I've got my sesame seeds. So I'm gonna do, I think I'll just make a teaspoon of each right now, and then if I need to make more, I have the spices on hand, I can go back and do it. So I've got my sesame seeds. You could also toast the sesame seeds ahead of time by just putting them in a saute pan over medium heat and move it around, keep an eye on them because they'll burn quickly, but as soon as they start to turn brown and you can really smell their nutty flavor, then you take it off the heat. Next, I'm gonna add a teaspoon of my thyme, teaspoon of cumin, teaspoon of the sumac, and I forgot to mention I'm out of oregano, but that's okay because there's still going to be so much flavor from this. So if you do get sumac, it tends to kind of ball up. Can you see that? And you just want to kind of crush those little balls. And then, here we go. Here we go. homemade Za'atar blend. Don't have to spend all the money. $8.99 for 2 tablespoons of it? No, thank you. Can go pick up all of these spices, most of these spices at like the dollar store, and you end up with this delicious blend. All right, so now my liquid is really reduced. My spinach leaves are all wilted. Let's take a peek. Oh, a steamy peek. Here we go. And I cheated. I cooked my pasta ahead of time. This is a half a pound of pasta. This is enough servings for four people. And I chose penne. I think the original recipe, I don't remember, used gemelli, I think. Or chiette would be good, rigatoni. You could even do spaghetti with this dish. The nice thing about the pastas with the ridges on them for this dish is that it soaks up all of the sauce into those little ridges and holds them in little pockets. All right. Oh, I am hungry. This smells amazing. So, a very quick dish. This took about 20 minutes to make, start to finish. And tons of flavor, no added salt, plant-based protein. I mean, what more could you ask for? So, now what I'm gonna do is just serve some up. If I can find a serving spoon. I'm going to take my Za'atar blend, a little sprinkle on top, and there we go. Pasta with chickpeas and Za'atar. I hope that you give it a try. Please join us next week for the next Learning Kitchen Live, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.